The actual meat plant, though, it has had its fair share of publicity, not good publicity, mostly recently. You're now in charge of this all again. I mean, you've been away, you come back. What did you find in the meantime? I mean, is it better or worse?
Well, what I would say is I'm not in charge of the meat plant.
Comes under your department.
It doesn't. The Isle of Man red meat industry comes under my department, right. And we work with processors and producers and farmers, the whole retail sector, to try and work in the best interests of the sector. The plant belongs to the Department of Infrastructure, but is operated by a farmer cooperative. Right. So it's not actually operated by the department, it's operated by the farmer cooperative. And I know people sometimes confuse that and assume, oh, well, the government runs the meat plant. We don't, we never have done. It's a farmer cooperative that does that. We do, however, significantly influence the meat plant through the different policies that we have in place. And you have to recognise that in our relatively small island, with the way in which our agricultural industry is set up, we need to have a meat plant. So there are some quite strong imperatives on government to make sure that we work with the directors of the meat plant.
I mean, you're the one who scuttled off to London to sort it out. That's why I'm assuming it was in your...
No, I mean, it's about the politics, really, and demonstrating to Tesco's that it's not just about a meat plant run by a group of farmer cooperative directors. It's actually much more serious than that for the whole of the Isle of Man. You know, the meat plant has a very important place to play in terms of delivering food security for the island. It also has a vital place to play in relation to our red meat sector. If we don't have a meat plant, then our red meat sector will look remarkably different. It will become far less profitable, and the countryside potentially will look quite less, a lot less attractive.
Are you happy with what you've seen going on in there? Let's try that. I mean, you know, it's the face of the Isle of Man. It's got to deal with the Tesco's and the other big supermarkets. Are you happy with the way it's going in there?
I am happy. We've had a very tumultuous period over the last couple of years. Actually, when I moved the countryside care scheme, which has resulted in, I suppose, highlighting some of the issues we've got with the meat plant, when I moved that, I was going around meeting farmers and I said, look, I'm not doing this for any personal glory. Quite the contrary, I said. In the year that the general election is going to take place, the whole scheme and its impact is going to look at its very, very worst. And sure enough, election year comes and crisis at the meat plant. We've lost the red meat derogation, which we thought was going to happen, but had hoped that we might have been able to avoid that loss. We also knew that last year was going to be the year when the production subsidies finally stopped and farmers had to start producing much more for the marketplace rather than relying on subsidies, which then actually frees farmers up a little bit more to allow them to do live export, which they have done. They're not necessarily making that much more money by doing that, but some farmers have chosen, because they've got the ability to do that, which has created this situation where there's all these uncertainties, there's lots of problems. The meat plant has lost a lot of throughput last year, and it all looks as though the department hadn't really properly thought this through, and oh dear, isn't it awful? Actually, we knew exactly that this was going to be the very worst year, the year we just complete, and we knew that there were various steps that needed to be taken. And unfortunately, without allowing the industry to go through that year, it's pretty difficult to see how we could have then started to rebuild, which is what we're now doing. We've got some new directors down at the meat plant in the new circumstances, working very well, I feel. And also, you know, what's, I suppose, most encouraging for me, and I'm apologies, this is a very long-winded answer, the most encouraging thing for me is that I haven't heard from the directors for the last month or two, and I think that's primarily because they are getting on now with working up some serious development plans, which they will be coming back to me with, and we will then be looking at a more longer-term future for the plant.
Okay, we're running out of time. Are you happier now dealing with soil rather than tarmac, you know, in your job?
They all have their attractions. I mean, I know a lot about rural politics and the whole international side of food politics. I know a lot about renewable energy, sustainability. All these things are things that turn me on as a politician. It's more difficult for me to get turned on about tarmac, I have to say. But, you know, I really did actually enjoy the experience being down in the Department of Infrastructure.
The potential of a reshuffle, the Chief Minister has already been flagging that up. Would you like to stay where you are?
I'd always like to stay in a department that I really enjoy.
Can you just give me a yes or no on that one?
The crucial things, well,
because you're going around here, aren't you?
See, the press works in yes and no's. The politics works in shades of grey, and the shades of grey, I would say, are that. Whereas if you'd have asked me that question 2 years ago, I would have been absolutely much more black and white and said no, I want to stay. Now, I feel that there are some things that hopefully we'll be in a position to announce in the near future, which I've been working on I'd been working on for 7 years, and then I was moved out. We didn't quite get them finished. We might now be getting to a position where we'll get them sorted.
When will this be
announced? Well, they'll be announced when we're able to announce them.
This month?
But what I know is that we're in a far greater position to be able to get completion on these things, which I felt I almost had sorted. I was snatched away, and I really wanted to get back to the department to finish those issues. And yeah, I'd love to stay in DEFA, but I'm a mere prawn. I will do what the Chief Minister says, in the words of Peter Cannon.
These big announcements this month, though. I mean, what you just said there. I mean, I don't even know what you're talking about, but is it going to be something big this month, May?
If I could tell you, I would, and I don't know. Is
likely?
All I know is that we are now much closer to getting to a position where we've got final solution for the issues that I've been quite keen to work on for the 7 years I was staff minister.
Okay, so watch this space.